That's, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, it's been a while since I give a talk, and I have never done this in English, so brace yourselves. Maybe it would be painful, not only for me. Yeah, who am I? I'm Boris. I've been doing this kind of web stuff for a long time. Actually, maybe I should switch and stop doing this. It's been like 15 years now, and I've been doing PHP, then Rails, then Elixir, and well, I'm coming from backend. I was lucky, maybe lucky, I don't know, and also got on this train of front-end frameworks, and I used Backbone. Anybody maybe used Backbone? Yeah. And yeah, then I used Angular at the times when Angular was like hype. And then we used React in beta. Well, React was in beta and we were in production with React. And there were like no server-side things. And we had to do it manually. So just render strings and ship it to people. And hopefully it hydrated. So yeah, that's my story kind of. And yeah, I like to build this stuff on the black screen, right? Backend stuff. But also I like to click on things, and yeah, that's how I like to do things. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. So I work at a project called Helpdesk.media, and I need to talk a little bit about it because it kind of connects to the stuff I'm going to show, because yeah, maybe it will somehow be connected. So this company where I work, it started off after the war in Ukraine, and we are a non-profit, and we have two main purposes. First one is to tell the stories about people who suffer during this war and to raise money for them, to spread the word, to acknowledge what is happening. And the second part is to support people who have different problems when they immigrate to other countries, or we have a really large audience in Russia, because the Russian state is a fucked up state, and they prosecute opposition, they do all these nasty things, and we connect those people with our volunteers, and we train volunteers to provide help, legal and advisory, and we do it with chats. So a person in Russia or somewhere else can just boot up Telegram, get a link, and talk to our guys using chats. And so this system is built from scratch, and it was built in like a month, and we kind of shipped it to production. And the backend is on Elixir, and the frontend for the app which people are using to chat with us and for the volunteers is built on Svelte. So I'm talking about that because you know, sometimes people talk about technologies but they haven't really used them, and I just wanted to kind of make clear that we built something which is quite big, and I will try to show a demo of this. It's running locally, so some data is of course missing. So this would be the chats, and this is of course the volunteer side of things. So he gets the ticket, and it's sort of like Zendesk, whatever, but we had to build it ourselves to host, to kind of for privacy reasons, because you know, dealing with the Russian state is kind of like, you don't really want to mess up with this. So yeah, and so this is quite a big app with a lot of screens, with a lot of functionality. It's all reactive, it's all real time, so notifications, all that stuff comes here. And also the other part, the media part of our business, which is not a business, is the media. So we have the app, and we do some content, and this is just a CMS, which is also built from scratch, and this is some stuff going on. So so it's quite complicated. A lot of things move around, and you really need to be reactive for this. Or you can hire a lot of developers, and yeah, they will do the job, but I'm doing this with another guy. So we are a team of two. I'm writing backend and frontend, and he's writing on the frontend stuff. So, and Svelte, right? So we could use React, we could use Vue. Why Svelte? It's because I really am a weird guy. I used React, and I loved it at first, but then I got bored of it, and was trying to kind of see what's other things. I tried Vue, but then I saw Svelte, and the thing that actually sold me was the guy who did Svelte, Rich Harris, who is a really nice guy. And I just like when technologies have faces, right? So Rails for me is like David Heinemeier Hansen, who is weird, but he's cool. And Phoenix, of course, is José Valim and Chris McCord. And yeah, Svelte also has a face, and this face is nice. I mean, not from the looks, but the guy is nice. Yeah, the question, can you use it in production? Yes, you can. And this, actually, to prove this, I have built this app that you're now witnessing in Svelte in one day, just to kind of, because I wanted to show some live examples and thought that, okay, I will build it in Svelte. So this is built in Svelte, and it has this, you can click on things. So yes. Reasons, yeah, why you might want to try to use it. So there are obvious reasons, and there are dislike reasons. So for me, all of this is kind of nice, right? But I really like the developer experience, which comes with the technology. So the way our minds work, we are all different. Somebody wants to be like really like a lot of classes and whatever, all that. And some people are like, yeah, not that serious. We just build the thing, we ship it, we see what's going on. Maybe we will die soon, so it's okay. And this is my approach. So yeah, but coming to technical details, right? So Svelte is not a framework like React in terms of it doesn't get shipped to your client's browser. So when you write Svelte, it compiles, and then this compiled JavaScript mess comes to the browser. So you don't have this overhead of loading a library to support your user interface. You just load things that actually matter, which is cool because it has zero runtime overhead, which is nice. So you don't have to worry about like performance that much. Syntax is really nice because, well, it's kind of debatable because it's JavaScript, and somebody hate on that, somebody loved this, so whatever. The other point is it's easy so far because, as you know, and as I know, when React came to the town, it was like super easy, and you were like, yeah, now I can write code fast and good and whatever. But now it's like, shit, you have to know this, that, this, and then you have to come up with different solutions, and you go to the Stack Overflow or ChatGPT and ask like, how do I manage styles in React app? And it gets complicated. So Svelte doesn't do that as of right now. It doesn't become harder to use. Yeah, it has its own Next. So this meta framework stuff, and it's Svelte Kit, and it's from the guys who are making Svelte. And yeah, also I added this hearts emoji to be funny. And yeah, it has a good score of loved with dreaded. So when you write Svelte code, you write something like this, which first you may think that what, why? It looks something like maybe, I don't know, weird, because you actually have coupled styles, some markup, and script. But well, it is what it is, and when you try it and try to build things with that, then you actually start appreciating that. Well, at least I started appreciating that, and it doesn't really make sense for me anymore to write code differently. So, and well, you write JavaScript, which is not the same JavaScript which comes to the browser of your client, because this goes to Svelte compiler, and this Svelte compiler enhances this, so all of this becomes reactive out of the box, and you don't need to worry about things. So I'm not hating on React. I respect React. We would be really miserable, well, more miserable than now, if we didn't have React. So, but the way you do stuff in React, maybe it's outdated code, I don't know. Tell me if this is legit. Is it? Yeah?
I think you can compile it.
Yeah, this is kind of legit, but thing is that in order to have reactivity, you have to kind of call functions that will do something, but your intention as a programmer was to just like, this should now be 3 or 4, right? But in React land and in a lot of lands, you need to call a function that would call things that would go somewhere, then virtual DOM, whatever, all that, and you will have something at the end. In Svelte, you just do something like this, and it kind of works. So this is nice. Because everything that we try to achieve in our life is a to-do app, as at least what I'm trying to do with my life, I did some programming and did some examples, which are actually the building blocks which I personally used in that app, which serves some purpose, right? And there is actually not a lot more to that app. And I really like the fact that with simple tools, which I will show you, you can build kind of big and complex apps. So the first thing is the counter, right? So I'm sorry, but bear with me. So how it works, right? Well, we have this weird $sign here. By the way, can you see this magnificent architecture, right? I can probably make it a little bit bigger, right? Yeah. So yeah, here we have this counter, which I said is 10 for some reason, and then we have this weird $sign, and then what is this called?
Column.
2 dots, yes, column, and then double the counter, which equals counter multiplied by 2. And this is a reactive statement, which you can just write like this, and it kind of works as you expect, because here in our template, we have this double the count is double counter. And anytime I change the counter, because it's binded, we have a new result, which is kind of great. And yeah, the way you write your actions, I don't know, functions, which react to your clicks and misclicks, is something like this, which kind of reminds us maybe a little bit Angular, Vue, I don't know. But I kind of don't hate on this, and I kind of like how simple it is. So yeah, and yeah, this kind of works, and that's all good. But we'll go into the to-do app, which we will hopefully improve. So Here we define this new to-do text, which is an empty string, and to-dos, which is an array of one object and some text in that. And we also define the function which will add a to-do, which is done like this. And then we reset the input text. And the code for this to work would be like we have an input, we bind it to the value. So we have two-way bindings in Svelte, which is kind of awesome. But the thing with technology is that we always go in circles, right? So we come up with the solution, we make a mess out of it, and then we kind of, oh, this is a new guy in town, and we kind of reiterate and reiterate and reiterate. So that's how it's done, but you know. And here, yeah, we can just bind the value which we can input here, and it automatically binds to the value, and then we have this key down listener, which will listen to any key which I press on this input, and then if it's enter, then we can add the to-do, the task. And here I wanted to show that, like here in the bottom, I just output the string for what's happening in this object, and it just kind of works because it's simple. And yeah, here I forgot to mention that here is a checkbox, and we just bind it to directly to the object's property, to do done. And yeah, you have the gist. And coming from React, it's kind of like, yeah, well, it's maybe you can kind of write as simple as that, but I really personally don't have brains for that. So yeah, other battle, right, for us developers is like state how we manage it and whatever. So we come up with the fancy solutions, actions, dispatching stuff, catching stuff, observing stuff, and whatever. So Svelte tries to kind of come to us and say, yeah, so we have this thingy, and you might want to use it. You can actually don't use it, but here is the way to go. And funny thing is that a store in Svelte is just an object which must implement a subscribe method, and then you kind of can just use a writable store or readable store if you want to protect the data, and you have only like three functions to work with the stores. So in this example, right, I have my list, which is a writable, and I initiate it with 1, 2, 3 array. So, and then I have this method which would update my store. And here I'm just setting the values. And in this multiply my store function, I just go inside this list, whatever it is in the store, and take the data which is inside it. And you know the drill, it's quite easy. And I was kind of, like when I was doing this big project, I was thinking like maybe I wouldn't get kind of far with this because it's like really not that advanced. But actually, it's kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie. You can really do a lot of things with stores, and you can really have this truly reactive experience because, yeah, as I said, that app uses Elixir on the backend, and everything which is happening is not done using REST API and regular HTTP calls, but everything is based in WebSockets. So all the data, all the navigation, everything is just going inside WebSockets. So, and it's quite fun actually to try this kind of stuff. So yeah, and yeah, I don't know if I need to demonstrate that it works. It should work, so I will not. But
Please do.
Yes, no. Another thing which is kind of surprising for me, but at least when I left React land, there was like a lot of ways to do simple transitions, right? Because we write apps, and then we kind of show it to somebody, and he's like, it's kind of glitchy. It kind of just works, but maybe we can do it nicer, fade, whatever, all that. And in Svelte, they solve this problem for us, so we don't have to, at least in this kind of, after you have deployed the app and got some feedback, it's quite easy to add animations, transitions, and all that. And you just import stuff from Svelte transition, and you get out of the box some effects which you can customize. And yeah, it brings memories of jQuery, and I really appreciate the time. I had a major depression and drank a lot, so thanks jQuery. Not only jQuery, but yeah. So the way you kind of do that is you provide this kind of code, directive, I think it's called, and you just say that when the thing appears, we have this fly, and when it kind of disappears, then we kind of have a fade. And if we pay close attention to how it works, it indeed fades, and here it kind of flies. It's funny how these little things can sell you on a technology, because yeah, I mean, they could easily be like skipping that and being like, oh, the community will do it for us, but they did it. And I really like how you don't have to think about how you will manage that, and how some more clever guys did it for you. So that's my approach also. And so this is a more complex example. This is kind of like, when I did this, I was shocked on how hard it is to actually put code in your presentation so it would be kind of understandable, not exhaustive. Is there a word like this? So it was really a challenge to kind of not make it ugly, but readable, and I'm not sure if I succeeded. So he will just go, and here is a new stuff which I haven't talked about. Right, we have stores which are reactive, which have this ability to set the data from any part of your app if you want to, and you can then observe it and react on that, render your components, all that good stuff. But in Svelte, you also have this context API, which is not reactive. And it is usually used when you have this high component somewhere in the beginning of your tree, which, for example, might be some, I don't know, current user stuff, or some object, or maybe a WebSocket connection, as in my example of my app. So there is this global stuff, and it should be kind of accessed from some other parts of the world, but yeah, so you can use context API, and it is kind of really simple. We just say set context, and then pass the key and any kind of object. In this particular example, I on purpose did it that we actually store a store inside a context, because it came from the real world problem that we had, because we had this complex form which is highly dynamic, real-time, all that, and actually the one which the editorial team uses to write texts, and they need to see in real time that somebody is editing the text and everything should be in sync. So, and we wrote this kind of form, and we had this store which stored the data for the form. And then we were like, okay, but now we need two forms, two instances of this component on one page. And we're like, okay, but there is a single store for that. How we should do that? And I was like, maybe we should just dynamically have a store which is bound to this, and using context, we can just pass it down and then read and like whatever. So it is actually one of the ways you can do that if you have components which are kind of the same instances of one, which is not usually happening in apps, because usually you have this one page and it has some form, right? But when you have the thing which you have multiple pop-ups of the same stuff, then you might be in a problem because you have to rewrite your whole state. So, and with that, so continue on my show. Here I'm just defining that we have a store, which is a writable. It has some initial data. Then I just say that, okay, this store goes to the context, and this means that anybody down the tree could just use it. Of course, I could use props for that, as we usually do when the tree is not that big. But here, for the sake of example, I just used that. And then we have this really cool feature, which is derived stores. So a store is an object which has this subscribe ability. And sometimes you have a big chunk of data, but you need to filter out some things, and you need to also make it reactive. The way you can do it in Svelte is you just write a derived store, which takes the original store, or in some instances you want to derive from multiple stores, which is kind of cool because sometimes you have this asynchronous nature of things coming from APIs, things coming from your backend, but you need to kind of shove it all together and make something beautiful out of it. So, and here would be the example, but here we just derive from one store, but this could easily be like multiple stores. And then you do this, well, I do, this filter function and sorting function. And I just thought that it's a great idea to have pending to-dos and completed to-dos, which are kind of derived from the same to-do list, which is called here. And then we have this add to-do, which, as I said, uses the update function on a store, and it kind of do its stuff, and then we just reset the new to-do value, which is like somewhere here binded. And when I do this, my store gets updated, derived store gets updated, and the code which, and we have the helper complete all and decomplete all. And this is kind of rendered here, like I have this pending to-dos, and I iterate over the two stores, uncompleted to-do stores and completed to-do stores. And then I just render this component, which is a task, and pass the task inside this thingy. And the task is just a basic dumb component, which takes the context from the whatever, that thing on top. Here it just does that. We have the function for toggling the state of our perfect to-do app. And we have like this kind of, I don't know, I don't want to explain it. It's quite obvious, I think, what it's doing. If you have questions, you can ask. But yeah, we have this awesome thingy, which we can prove that it works. And it works. We can complete all stuff, decomplete all stuff. And the amount of code which I wrote for that, for me, it's actually still, even though I'm writing like for more than a year on Svelte, it's like I really like the approach of this technology, because it really doesn't get in my way of expressing what I actually want to do, because I actually want to kind of make a new thing. I don't want to notify my framework that I'm doing something. I expect that framework is smart enough to figure it out by himself. So, and yeah, you write JavaScript. So, and I thought that, okay, this is a really nice thing, but we should make this animated. So I took the same stuff, but imported a crossfade function from transition. All this code is the same. Everything is the same except of this definition of send and receive functions, which we'll get later to. And this crossfade functions actually allows us to do things like this, which, yeah, like you may say, like, really? is this like, why are I wasting my time by this? But I actually had the problem of doing something similar with React, because I was like, okay, it's kind of updated itself, and I have no kind of how do I put this there? So I would have to kind of get a library for that and then figure it out, like all that. But here we just sort of say that we wrap our task component inside this div with in, receive, and out, which is send, which is defined through here. And we have this kind of thingy which works, which have animations, and I mean, like most of the time you probably will be okay with that, and you'll be like, okay, I did it, and now I will go to, I don't know, some place, a sofa. Yeah, and then this kind of works like this, so I don't know, I really like that. So for those of you who kind of knew all that, I'm really sorry that you waited and spent the time. But yeah, for those who didn't, maybe I will convince you to at least try it. And yeah, as I said, like these building blocks allowed me and my dude build the app, which is kind of works, which is used, and it's quite simple to kind of get it. Because in React world, at least in my experience, is like sometimes it was like, oh, I need to kind of go in deep state meditation, and then maybe I will be able to understand the nature of this complex monstrosity. But maybe I wasn't lucky. So other part, which is kind of also nice because it's short, is life cycle of components. As in every kind of thing which changes, we have this life cycle, right? We are born, then we suffer, and then we die. So in Svelte, you have these 4 life cycle components, which are kind of, you get like on mount, it's when it's mounted. Destroy, when it's destroyed, and before and after updates are functions which would schedule the work after the DOM is updated or before it's updated. So you can perform some nasty find DOM element by ID and doing like scrolling and all that kind of stuff, which yeah, in React land, as you know, it might be painful to ref. I don't know if it's still in React. So to find the thing which kind of updated somewhere, then virtual DOM did its thing, and you need to find it, and then you need to kind of do something with this. So here you kind of in a better, I would say, camp. But yeah, so if you are like, wow, this is a cool thing, and you are thinking like, how would I ever convince somebody that we use it in production or things like that? You will be in the good company of, I showed it in the second slide, right? So Apple, Spotify, Square, Rikaten, I don't know what it is, Bloomberg, Reuters, IKEA, and Brave. Yeah, those companies kind of adapted this for different purposes. Of course, they have large code bases, but it kind of shows that if you have, I would say, like, for example, you have a big thingy, and you're like, okay, maybe it's even not built with React. Maybe it's built with jQuery, or I don't know. And you want to kind of split this thing and make some parts nicer. So Svelte would be perfect for micro frontends and nano frontends and these small frontends. It is a really good fit for that, in my opinion. So of course, landing pages where somebody is just pushing you hard to make this effect on scroll and all this SVG stuff, it would be kind of really cool tool for that, because especially with landing pages, we know that nobody visits them and then they die. So you wouldn't be like in this hard position to sell it to the manager, like let's try Svelte maybe. Yeah, another part is web components and embeds. If you're a company that provides some sort of publicly things like embeds, you might want to try Svelte because you can compile it to web components. They will be blazingly fast and maybe, depends, I'm not sure, but it should be. Yeah. Or you can be like me and be like, okay, we need to make this really important app to save people. Let's fucking do it with Svelte, because why not? So downsides of Svelte, for me, it's not so popular, but actually I like to be like this a little bit weird on the edge. So maybe it's a good thing, but for somebody it's definitely not a good thing because you know the ecosystem, the libraries, whatever. But in my experience, I really didn't have any issues of finding libraries that I borrowed and used. And yeah, and the other thing is it's really hard to get back to React or Vue after Svelte. It's also coming from personal experience because we had to fork a project in our project and use React, and I was like, it's painful. So I don't know. It sounds like I'm hating on React, but wait a second. I had this note which I want. It's like a philosophical note, a little bit. Wait a second. So yeah, every piece of I didn't find it. So in my opinion, technology kind of serves the two parts, right? The end users who are like, yeah, emoji and Instagram, whatever, all that. And ads should load fast, right? So money-driven economy. So this is kind of one side, and the other side, the other group is this minority of people which are developers. And for the most part, developers spend the day looking at abyss of, like, if you try to think how complex a thing is, it's like, whoa. It's nice to do it on drugs probably, but there are different approaches in technologies, and some are selling you like, yeah, enterprise, you will have this gazillion-dollar company if you use this library. Some are like more like, yeah, it's not a big deal. We just made this, and yeah, you can probably do this. And well, the kind of frontier, but I don't know. And for me, I really try to find the good balance between the technology is really kind of creepy and ugly, and you can't really use it, but it's super interesting. And the technology is well established, but really boring. So I always try to find this kind of sweet spot between these two things. And for me, Svelte is this kind of tool. And yeah, this presentation is built with Svelte, and it's another kind of example that you can build shitty apps with Svelte. Yeah, it's 10 out of 10. And questions, I will gladly try to answer some. I don't know if I'm in time or if I skip the. Sorry, where is Edgar's? Okay.
Are there any full-stack frameworks based on Svelte, like this next word, React?
Yeah. So it was in the slide, so it proves that people don't listen to other people, but it's okay. So there is SvelteKit, which is from the team who built Svelte. And it gets all the fancy things, well, most of the things which Next or Next have. So you have this file-based routing, you have server-side rendering, SSR, you have other SRs like CSR, if you know what it is. You have all this stuff, you have protected routes, you can easily kind of do requests isomorphically, or that word, so yeah, you can build full stack SvelteKit apps if it's your thing. If you want to write JavaScript on backend, you can do that. I'm not judging. So yeah, so SvelteKit is awesome in terms of experience as well. So it's blazingly fast, and yeah, the support with all that is really awesome. I really like how Svelte team did all the examples and documentation. It's like really one of the most kind of good parts. Like, no, there are good parts in technology, but the way they approach the developer in terms of providing the examples is like really cool. So they have this official getting started. You can write code, you can fail with writing code, and yeah, that's kind of cool thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Svelte, the framework then parses your Svelte file and generates the JavaScript that is run in the browser, right?
Yes.
So why in the counter project the double counter needed to be marked as reactive? Why couldn't code detect that counter is used there also and automatically make it reactive?
No, thing is that this count, where is it? So here, actually, this counter is reactive. The let counter, then when it gets compiled, Svelte analyzes this code. Then there are smart people, AST, tables, all that. I don't know. That's too much for me. But then they kind of enrich this code with the invalidation. So they see that this counter will get used somewhere there. So on any reiteration and no, it's simpler. If you have A, it's like 1, and then you have A. This is 2.
Reference?
No. Whatever. When you say that this variable is no longer 1 and then it's 2, Svelte provides all this callback mess, which you have to write when you write React with setState. So here it's just done on the compile step, which analyzes both your script and your template and all that. And this is just saying to that we have this reactive statement, and it can also be not a statement, it could be an expression. So we could go deep in that, do if and all that, if you want to. So yeah.
If you don't mark it as a reactive, what happens then?
This would be, I don't know, we can check, but it probably would be just, you would say that let double counter, and then you would just do it like this, and then because, when it gets a tick, it would be, I don't know, it's JavaScript. But it wouldn't work, that's what I know. It probably shouldn't work. I don't know, if there are Svelte guys here, please help me out because I'm lost. But it's a good question. I will dig it into this.
Did you use this function in the presentation page counter? On the right. No. This is actually this magnificent piece of software is built on SvelteKit, and it has this. For example, I can compile it to stuff. It has this, like when I go to things, you see this bar changes, slides 3, all that. So these are kind of full-blown HTML pages. So it's not like there is a component that handles the stuff. It's like new pages coming. So very kind of mature
of me to do that. I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Any other questions?
Then how is the debugging?
What?
Debugging
Debugging, you mean,
in the browser.
it's okay. So you actually, when you have errors during your development, you have in the browser you would have the reference to where things broke in your Svelte files, not in the compiled thing. So they thought about that. So you don't have to, like in some scenarios, you have this weird stack of like proxy something, and you need to kind of think about that. But usually you kind of drill down to it really easy. And they also have cool tools of like, I can't really show it to you, but it's like you have an inspector, like this regular Chrome inspector, but you also have the inspector in Svelte, which you can just command to that, like shortcut. And then you can, maybe I can show it here because, I don't know, we'll see. Or I will fail. Yeah, so here, this stuff is running locally, so this here, and I can, if I would be like not that lazy as I am, this would get the reference to the Svelte component itself, and if I click on this, it should fire up VS Code or your editor of choice, but I broke something, and that's why in my case it doesn't work. But well, it's a plugin on White, because Svelte is built with White, White, I don't know, VIT, yes, and it's just a plugin that you shove into the VIT, and somehow it works. So yes, but it helps to do stuff, but it sometimes annoys the hell out of me because the key bindings are pretty much the same as taking a screenshot. So I usually do this, get this, want to make a screenshot, swear a lot, and then kind of move that, make a screenshot, and like ready to go. But yeah, so.
You were showing some transitions there. Does it have some CSS framework built in right away? Like
no, it has. We can actually go to, and I will show you how they do the examples. So they have all this awesome. Well, this is not the right one, but 1 second. Yeah, so they have this tutorial which kind of shows you things, explains you things, and then you can just, if you're lazy and you want to try it yourself, you can just show me and see what's going on in here. And for those nerds who know what the AST, all that stuff, and want to read the compiled script, you could go here and be like, yeah, I'm really smart. But I try not to do that, because I wouldn't ever be smart. But transitions, they are basically 2 types of transitions, right? There are ones which you do through CSS and the ones which you do in your JavaScript. So you have both things here. So here we have custom CSS transitions, and I will just show me. And should, what? Well, you said? Ah, yes. Yes, and no, show me. And here we'll have transition. And this is what I'm talking about, that the experience you have with this. So usually, right, when you're like stuck with something, you usually Google and go to Stack Overflow, ChatGPT, whatever, your kind of preferred way to suffer. And for the most part, I go here. If I'm stuck with something, I go here, and it kind of speaks my language in terms of easy English and dummy code, and you can kind of copy and then do stuff. So yeah, I hope that I answered your question. So you can actually do some wild animations with that. So there are directives and stuff to animate SVG. They also have examples of this.
But yeah, I just advise you to, if you're interested in that, just go to Svelte.dev and play with this because, like, really, it was a selling point for me to try. Yep.
How would you use external UI components in a scope project? I similarly how it is in React, where you
Yeah.
from a module, some sort of already
Yeah.
component and then use it.
Yeah, so there are components, of course, open source. There are people building libraries and components for Svelte. And in this scenario, it's quite easy. You just import and you're good to go. You just take the component, you import it in your Svelte file, which would be like something like this. You import it from your dep, whatever, thingy, and then you just use it and pass the props which are needed. So it's basically like in React. The thing which I did, which kind of was nice for me back, like it was probably 2 years ago, I had to build this this site which helped raise a lot of money for the company I worked in, which is Medusa, which is the one of the last standing free speech journalists things in Russia for Russian people. Yeah, I built it with Svelte in like 3 days because we had to do it really fast. And here we have this Stripe form. And the way I did it, it is just easy. I took the Stripe library because there wasn't kind of anything at that time. So I just mounted the JavaScript library, which was already good to go in the browser. And then in the onMount callback for this component, it just gets attached. And then I had to do some magic with like types and stuff. But then you have the Stripe in your DOM, as in the old days, and you just use it like this. So there are options. I must say that, yeah, if coming from React, maybe you will feel this lack of choice, right? Because it will be like, oh, should I use awesome DND or awesome DND 0.3 forked from that dude or this one? I don't know, but yeah, in Svelteland, you sometimes, you know, pull yourself together and, I don't know, write something like on drag start and be like, yeah, I'm a real front-end programmer now because I don't use a library. I mean, like sometimes I have to do this, but usually it's not that complicated. And it kind of reminds me of these days when we owned what we did. So we shipped this same JavaScript that we wrote to everybody, and we were like, yeah, embrace it. So yeah, sometimes I have these vibes with Svelte, but it doesn't mean that, yeah, you have all this optimizations, splitting, chunks, whatnot, all that. Yes?
Hey, first of all, you're doing some awesome work at Helpdesk, so hats off to you. My question is, I know that Elixir talked about extending the Svelte ecosystem with
Right.
JS talk to introduce some like additional like typing features to it.
Yeah.
So would you say, what's the feedback on like improving the developer experience using typing or something else?
Yeah, so there was this like a drama in Svelte world, a little bit, not only in Svelte world, but in TypeScript. Like guys who like TypeScript and obsessed with TypeScript, they were like, Svelte is ditching TypeScript, like, but they actually have a good explanation on that, like why they did it. Because when you write your highly sophisticated code that you ship to other people, you want to kind of be secure in your job place, and you introduce things like TypeScript to have this developer experience, right? And but TypeScript is not a language, right? So it's not a language. I'm sorry. It's a syntax and all that analyzer, and it kind of safeguards you from making stupid mistakes. Sometimes it gets in your way. In my experience, for me, I'm not really like loving TypeScript. I use it, but for me, I like to live on the edge. I like to be like, whatever, I don't care. You can't judge me. I live in other town. So, the drama happened because Rich Harris and the team, well, I think it was Rich who decided that they would ditch TypeScript from the library itself. It doesn't mean that they don't support TypeScript anymore, so you can still use TypeScript, and you are actually encouraged to do that. But when you do a library, when you create a library, you want the build step to be easy. You want to know what's going on. And if you just use pure JavaScript with JSDocs, you have the type safety, you have these things which you kind of get from TypeScript, but you don't have TypeScript. So, and it was like really, in some places misunderstood, and people were like didn't really listen to what the guys said, and the guys did it from their perspective. And their perspective is to build a library which should be easy to maintain, so you don't have to waste time on compiling TypeScript, for example, right? When you're building a library, you don't have this friction of another build step. You don't have these things that people always, well, some people say that you have this TypeScript config, which is nobody really kind of agrees upon and all that. So yeah, that's kind of an answer. I'm not sure if it's okay, but yeah, the thing is that you can and you should probably use TypeScript in your Svelte projects, but the Svelte itself goes to JSDocs and pure JavaScript, so that's how it goes. Yeah. Any? Yeah.
The stuff that Svelte produces works well on mobile phones browser.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the salient points for Svelte. So they claim it themselves that because they compile and because you have basically zero overhead in terms of loading, this is really good for mobile. And well, of course, there are like this. If you compare it against other frameworks, maybe it wouldn't be that fast. So today we saw that, like in these benchmarks, which I actually didn't see, I thought actually that Svelte would be faster than Vue, but it turns out that in some benchmarks it's not. But yeah, it's really good for mobile, basically. So, and it's and here I'm also talking from experience because when I left Medusa and was like, I don't want to work anymore, then I, for some reason, needed to make some money, and I built a mobile app, game app, for a bank in Russia, for this one of the major banks, which is called Alpha Bank, which is sanctioned now. And well, it was a really good experience for me because this app, the only devices that it had to work on were mobile devices, and it had to be performant. And the other part with that is that it had to be deployed as a static, only static thingy, but it had some kind of weird things going on. I don't really actually remember what it did, but it was like a game for users of the bank to, I don't know, spend the time, and it was some kind of quiz, and things flew around. You have to have drag and drop and all that. So I did it, and they actually paid me, and the app saw the world, and the users were like clicking. So that's yeah. I from my experience, I can say that yeah, it's a good tool for making apps which are kind of targeted towards mobile.
Adapted.
Yeah.
Probably most important question tonight is, which chocolate do you prefer, milk or dark? And there's only one right answer.
I prefer dark.
You answered properly. Thank you.
That is good. Oh, very nice. Okay.
So
Thank you.
for being here. If you have a question and you are just shy, come to Boris now. And,
No, come here.
Here, yeah.
Let's hug.
And after or before you get hugged, please give us feedback in the boxes. So thank you everybody for coming, and see you next month.
Yeah, thanks for listening.